Hi, my name is Sarah, and I will be going over PBB poisoning in Michigan State in the United States for my Global Environmental Health class. This is my table of contents. First, I will be going over the purpose and objectives of this slideshow. Then I will be going into more detail about what PBB poisoning is, how it contaminated the farms in Michigan, and how it contaminated the Pine River in Michigan. Then I will go into some demographics and the rates of PBB poisoning by age and by symptoms, and then go in a little more detail about reproductive complications following PBB poisoning. Then I will finish up with a summary and my references. The purpose and objective of this slideshow is to provide an overview of PBB poisoning in Michigan and the United States, and to also demonstrate the effects of PBB poisoning over time, and to discuss the impacts of PBB poisoning. So first, I have this map of Michigan by county from 1975. This was taken from Michigan Department of Health and Human Services website. So first, PBB is a highly toxic chemical when you're exposed for long periods of time. So in 1973, in Michigan, a chemical manufacturing company accidentally sent fire retardant to a livestock feed plant. These animals at the farm were then fed the fire retardant, which was then consumed by humans through meat, dairy, and dairy products. Consumption of the animal products over time ultimately caused PBB poisoning in the humans, and it wasn't further investigated until the farmers saw that their animals were acting off, so they got an investigation started to determine why this was happening. So in this map, you can see nearly half of the counties in Michigan State in 1975 had farms that were contaminated with PBB. So this line graph here shows PBB concentration in the Pine River in Michigan, in St. Louis, Michigan. So the same company that was responsible for sending fire retardant to the farms were actually known for dumping PBB poisoning in the Pine River. So then the river was used for drinking and for daily purposes. And as you can see, in September 1974, there was high rates of PBB being dumped in the Pine River. And then as more people found out about it, the rates ultimately decreased, and there were no more PBB being dumped after September 1976. And as you can see in this line graph, it's split by the different permits that each company had, so it goes from permits 1 through 14. This pie chart shows the number of individuals with PBB poisoning by age. So a sample of 861 people from Michigan were taken to determine if they had PBB poisoning and how much poisoning they had. After it was found that PBB poisoning was prevalent in this Michigan community, Michigan created a registry system just because PBB stays in someone's system for about 15 years at a time. So as you can see from this graph, the highest age range that was affected was 20 to 29, followed by age 7 to 20, so it's more of the younger populations that were affected by PBB poisoning, and then they later grew to have health conditions due to this poisoning early on in their life. This table shows the prevalence of symptoms in individuals exposed to PBB through the farming industry or through working at the chemical plant or by dumping it into the Pine River. So main symptoms included weakness and fatigue, joint or muscle pain, abdominal pain, frequent infections, rashes, memory loss, poor concentration, or depression. As you can see from this sample, only 23 farmers were observed in the beginning, and 28 chemical workers were observed in the beginning. And although the chemical workers worked daily with the PBB and they were the ones dumping it into the Pine River and the ones who were responsible for shipping the fire retardant to the farmers had higher rates of weakness and fatigue, abdominal pain, and other symptoms from PBB poisoning due to their interaction with their cattle, their sheep, the pigs, and the farm animals daily. So now I want to go over reproductive issues from women in Michigan with PBB poisoning. So PBB actually has a big effect on the hormonal systems and on women of reproductive age. So as you can see through this bar graph, um, a lot of women had reproductive issues such as miscarriage, preterm birth, hypertension during pregnancy, difficulty getting pregnant, and a lot of these people had pelvic inflammatory disease, endometriosis, or PCOS due to their long exposure to the PBB chemical. And as you can see from the slides previously, a lot of people exposed were under the age of 30. So as they're growing and getting to the reproductive age, that this can affect them for their whole life. And to summarize this slideshow, PBB poisoning took place in Michigan in the early to mid 70s because of one company, from them sending the flame retardant to a livestock feed plant, and for the same company dumping chemicals into the river. And this caused high levels of PBB poisoning in Michigan residents. And years later, PBB levels are still elevated in the residents, and Michigan had to create a PBB registry to keep up with the residents years later to see the long-term effects. And these are my references, and thank you for listening to my slideshow.